Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I am doing my picks for week 23 of the Overwatch League, the third week of Countdown Cup qualifiers, or just the penultimate week of the season, the regular season that is. It is the final week though for the APAC region. After this weekend we will have the APAC region play-ins next week at the same time as the Western region kind of final week, and then their plans will be a week later, so the APAC region has a little bit of extra time to travel. So this is the final week for the APAC region, so that means that there is one spot left in the APAC play-ins, and we will have that decided this weekend. Real exciting stuff, so let's jump in, let's dive in, let's take a look at what is going to happen in week 23. And let's start with the APAC region. First game is the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Hangzhou Spark. Dynasty look really, really good right now. They look like the best team in the APAC region. Arguably even a top team in the entire league right now. They look very, very good right now. Look really, really nice. Spark almost beat the Dragons last week, lost in a reverse sweep. They are struggling right now. They have been struggling for the latter half of this season. Ever since the Summer Showdown, this team has not looked very good. So I don't think this one will be particularly close. I think the Dynasty are just a much better team right now. I'm going to say 3-0 win for the Seoul Dynasty. I believe in them a lot more. I think they look really good right now. I just don't see the Spark finding a victory in this one. Let's move on to the big game of the weekend, the biggest game of the weekend in terms of tournament implications, and that is the Los Angeles Valiant, the current 7 seed in the APAC region, taking on the Guangzhou Charge, who are currently the 6 seed in the APAC region. Only one of these teams is making the play-ins, and this game really is a big factor in who makes that spot. The Guangzhou Charge and the LA Valiant have the same record right now. They're both 7-15, though differential doesn't really matter for this one because the Guangzhou Charge have the extra tournament point from the Summer Showdown. So the Charge will get in to the play-ins if they win this match no matter what. If they win, the LA Valiant are eliminated. Even if the Charge win this match and lose their next match, and the Valiant lose this match and win their next match, the Charge automatically have the tiebreaker by having that extra tournament point. So this game is massive. That is why it is my first big pick game of the weekend. This is one of the great things about this format, is that we are getting a game this late in the season that really means something, and it means a lot to both of these teams, because only one of these teams is going to make the play-in tournament. And both teams look really, really good right now. Unlike in the Western region, where I think you have that kind of 8, 9, 10 spot, where I really don't think any of those teams look particularly strong. I think that the APAC region actually is bottom-heavy in terms of the teams that I like right now. I think the Charge and the Valiant look better than the Spark, look better than the Fusion, look better than, or similar to where Chengdu looks right now. So this is going to be a really interesting one. I think this series is going to be a really, really close one. I think it really comes down to kind of what we see out of the Charge now that they have Piggy in their roster. We know who the Valiant are. They've been a lot of the same thing throughout the season. Obviously, they had Dia and the Junker Queen in the Summer Showdown, but now it's a lot of Sashin and Marvel. They're switching between them based on what the map and what kind of works best for the specific player and the specific map. So this, to me, is a really interesting series between two teams that I think are in pretty good spots right now when it comes to how they've looked so far this season. I think it'll be a very big matchup between DPS as well. I think EasyHan has had a really good couple of weeks, the past couple of weeks, and I think that he is going to be the big thing that could be the thing that stops Jimmy from having that major effectiveness against a Charge team that is a very solid team, but I don't think they've looked incredible. Where I really think the Charge have the advantage in this one, like 100%, is a support line. I think that Xerneas, I said Evoltal last week, but Xerneas and Faraway are both incredible players. I've been more impressed with them than I have so far Linksa and Molly in this most recent tournament cycle. I think Molly and Faraway are pretty close, but to me, Xerneas has looked really, really good in ways that Linksa has not. So I'm really interested to see where this matchup goes and what happens. But I think it's going to go the distance. I think these are two pretty solid teams. I really could see either of these teams winning. But right now, I feel more confident in the Guangzhou Charge. So I am going to give them the 3-2 victory over the Valiant, locking up that 6th spot in the play-in tournament. I think they could technically jump ahead of the Hunters if they were to go 2-0 this week and the Hunters go 0-2 this week. The Charge would have the tiebreaker. Doesn't really matter. They're going to play each other no matter what. The Hunters are locked in as either the 5 or the 6, right? So they'd play round 1 no matter what. It really would just be at that point about map pick. So it doesn't matter that much, but I think the Charge are the team to win this one and lock up the final spot for the play-ins in the APAC region. Moving over to the West, Paris Eternal taking on the Houston Outlaws. I don't feel great about the Paris Eternal still. They didn't play last weekend, so they could look better. But I thought this meta just didn't really look great for them when we saw them a couple weeks ago. And so I think it is going to be interesting to really kind of see where the Eternal look, since we haven't seen them in a bit, but I think the Outlaws look pretty solid. They weren't incredible the last time we saw them, but I think they're better than most teams in the league still. And they also didn't play last week, so I feel pretty good about where they are because we haven't seen them, right? They also had 2 weeks off. They lost to Boston, who looks really, really good, and they beat the Shock. So I think they should be fine. Both these teams are coming off of a week of no playing. I think that favors the Outlaws because there is, in the equal amount of time, you can't really say that one team has the advantage over the other. Both have had the time to sit out. The Outlaws have, I think, they looked good last week, except for the fact that Doge struggled in the series against the Uprising. So I feel good about the Outlaws. I think they should take this one. 3-0 victory for them. I just think they look like the better team right now. Washington Justice versus Boston Uprising. Of course, these two teams right now are 2 of your play-in teams. The Uprising, I don't know if they... Actually, I believe they can pass either the Mayhem or the Justice in the standings. I don't think they can pass anybody else, but they could move up a little bit. They could get to either the 9 or the 8 spot. Right now, they're sitting in the 10 spot in the play-ins. Definitely possible. I think Boston look pretty good right now. I think they look better now than they did in any other point this season. I think Punk is looking very comfortable. I like what they're doing with Crimzo in the lineup. Maybe we see more Seeker, maybe we don't, not quite sure. But I think the Uprising look pretty good right now. Justice are a solid team. I think this is a game if you're the Justice. You kind of want to win to keep yourself in that similar spot that you are now. This is the last weekend for the Justice. If you lose to the Uprising, you probably go 0-2 this weekend because their other game is against the Gladiators. So decent game for them if they want to try to finish the season potentially with, a 12-12 record, ideally, or an 11-13 record. This is a really big game to win. If you want to keep Boston from being able to catch up to you, you definitely want to win because Boston has the means to catch you. If they end up with a 12-12 record, 12 points, that would put them ahead of the Washington Justice. So assuming the Justice lose both of the games. So interesting one. Uprising definitely have a bit of an uphill battle this weekend if they want to do that, but I think it's going to be an interesting one. But I think right now you have to pick the Uprising. I think they just look better right now. They've had a week off. The Justice coming off a bit of a not an awful weekend last weekend, but not a great weekend for them. Uprising look very good right now. I'm going to give the Uprising this one by a score of 3-1. Final match on Friday is the Florida Mayhem against the Vancouver Titans. Florida Mayhem did not play last week, but I was not super impressed by what we saw from them 2 weeks ago. Vancouver Titans, on the other hand, did play last weekend, and they beat the Toronto Defiant, which is a big win for them. They haven't beaten the Defiant in a while, so good showing from them to get that win there. Kind of surprising. They did put themselves in a much better position kind of going into playoffs, or not playoffs, end of season standings. Doesn't really mean much for the team because they're eliminated from the play-ins, but a win's a win, hurts the Defiant, makes the players have another win, which can help them potentially get a spot next season. So all in all, pretty good thing for them. Truthfully, I really don't think that the Titans Mayhem game will be particularly great. Overwatch, I don't think either of these teams have looked very good, but the Mayhem have had a week off. I think that does help them at least a bit. They're a team that I think as time goes on, I think they figure their stuff out. I think their coaching staff is very, very solid. I think Gunba is a very good coach who does a lot to get his team in good positions. He knows what his team is good at. I think he can get away pretty well running double flex support in this meta. which they seem to like to do. I think you can put someone on roles that he's pretty happy with, like Winston. There is a lot of flex tank being played, which I think does hurt this team a bit, because I don't think someone looks particularly great on that role. But I think with the time off and the way that this team kind of plays, they looked really, really good in the Summer Showdown, after I thought they looked pretty bad for a lot of that tournament. So I feel pretty good about the Mayhem, but I don't want to write off the Titans based on what we've seen from them so far. So I'm going to say this is a 3-2 win for the Mayhem over the Titans. Close one. I think it goes the way of the Mayhem, though, just because I think they look better as a whole, and I think that the week off will help them a lot. Next match is the Guangzhou Charge taking on the Hangzhou Spark. For whatever reason, the pick'ems on the site is wrong. So if you are wondering where this game is on your pick'ems and it's not updated, as far as I can tell, last time I checked, it was not updated. That is what the match is. So it's Guangzhou Charge versus the Hangzhou Spark. I think the Charge look way better right now. I think the Spark are a really weak team. I honestly hope they don't make the playoffs, because I just think that there's no real excitement with this team right now. They don't look good. They look uncomfortable. I think they're making weird coaching decisions that are hurting them. I want to see more kind of stability with this tank line. I don't think you need to keep switching between Bernard and Gouchouet. Other teams are doing it, and I still don't love it when they do it, but other teams are doing it. With Neko and Teru in the support line, it's kind of odd and bizarre. I just don't love what the Spark team has done. The only consistency so far really has been Alpha Yi and Shy. Otherwise, this team is kind of odd and doing weird things. The Guangzhou Charge, I think, look good right now. And depending on what happens in the Valiant versus Charge game, this could be a huge game for the Charge, because they might need to win this one if they want to get into the playoffs. So I think you have to go with the Charge. I'll say the Charge take it 3-1. I think that's the most likely result. That just seems like what I would expect from them. That just seems kind of like par for the course for them, and so I'll say Guangzhou Charge take this one at 3-1. Shanghai Dragons taking on the LA Valiant. This is an interesting one. I don't think the Dragons look very good. They had to reverse sweep the Spark last week. And I think that the Valiant do look pretty good right now. So this is going to be an interesting one to see. Obviously, historically, since 2020, the Dragons have been a juggernaut in the Overwatch League, and even 2019, I think they beat the Valiant twice. I could be wrong about that, but I think they did. And so I look at this Dragons team right now and what they've been, and I don't love what they've been doing. I'd like to see them run more Lee Jagon and more Who Are You. I don't think Fleta looks great, and I think that they've struggled with double flex support with Bebe in. I think just run what you're comfortable with, run what you're good at. Run Lee Jagon, run Who Are You. He has just looked better so far this season than Fleta has. In this meta, you can run Genji, you can run Tracer. Ryu can play both of those. I just think he has more flash and more dynamic play. You can get away with him on Genji, and he'll look fine. So that's my thing that I want to see from the Dragons. I don't know what they're going to do against the Valiant. They seem to really want to run Fleta quite a bit, even though I don't think they look particularly great with him in. So I'm going to give this game, a bit surprisingly, to the LA Valiant. I think that they have just played way better than the Dragons have right now. The Dragons, to me, do not look like a good team. They look poor. They just do not look like they're playing well. They look lost. They look confused. I think that they're a good team, and this should be a close series, but I don't think they really look like they have been all that impressive as of late, so I'm going to give this one to the LA Valiant by a score of 3-2. Final APAC game Saturday is the Chengdu Hunters against the Philadelphia Fusion. Fusion have struggled against the Hunters this season. I don't really think that will be any different this weekend. I think that the reality is the Hunters look better than the Fusion do right now. Even though the Fusion have had some good wins recently, getting a win over the Spark was a good one for them, kind of getting their postseason placement. They have a 2-point lead on the Spark right now, so as long as the Spark lose a game this weekend or the Fusion win a game this weekend, they're fine. They're locked in for the playoffs. So they probably will know Friday what their fate is. They'll definitely know by the time they play this game what they have to do, because the Spark will have to play the Dynasty and the Charge before they even play the Fusion. So the Fusion might not even go full send in this match. If they're locked in for the playoffs, they might kind of back off a bit. Hunters, to me, are just better against the Fusion anyway. They play well against them, so I think Hunters take this one. I'm going to say a score of 3-1 for the Hunters over the Fusion, getting themselves into a good spot for the play-ins, and the Fusion probably already be locked in for the playoffs at that point, so they really won't care all that much. Moving on to the Western region for Saturday, Florida Mayhem versus the Atlanta Reign. Atlanta Reign, a little disappointing last week, reverse sweep by the San Francisco Shock, but outside of that, they look pretty good. Obviously, they were up 2 maps against the Shock, so you can't really write them off. I think they looked pretty good. I thought that their first half of the season was very, very good. Summer Showdown, they fell off quite a bit, and I think in the Countdown Cup, they have been also a little bit middling at times, but overall, I think they're a pretty good team, and I do want to see more of them as the season progresses. So I'm excited for them come playoff time. Mayhem, I don't love the way they play. I think they're a better team than the Titans. I don't necessarily think they're a better team than the Reign, who I think look really, really good when they are at their best. Even at their best, Mayhem, I still feel like are pretty lackluster. They don't have the same kind of star power and clutch potential that players like, Kai have with the Atlanta Reign, and Speedleys look very, very good. And they haven't even played Kai much in this tournament, so I'm going to say the Reign take this one. I'm feeling like it's going to be a close game because I always feel like the Reign like to tease everybody, so I'm going to say a 3-2 victory for the Atlanta Reign. Next is the LA Gladiators taking on the Washington Justice. Gladiators, I think, are the better team here. I don't think there's really a surprise. I want to see more space out of them. I think this is a very big series for them. They struggled against New York because I think they forced compositions that weren't very, very good when they were running a lot of Winston, and I think that's not really the ideal composition. I think right now Zarya, D.Va are the better options. If they're not going to run Zarya and D.Va, they might struggle against the Justice because Kalios plays both of those, but he also plays Orisa, so it's tough to say for sure. I want to see more space for the Gladiators. I think he is the best option they have in the tank role right now in this meta. So I definitely think this one could be close. New York pushed the Gladiators pretty far. I think the Gladiators need to figure out the way to kind of get the most out of their tank. I think right now that is off tank, but maybe it's just the way they play against a team like the Justice, who have Decay, has to be better and more kind of solidified and shored up than like what they did against New York, but we'll see. I think the Gladiators are still the better team. I think they're favored regardless. I'm going to pick them to take this one 3-1. And the final match on Saturday is the Battle for Texas, Part 2 of the season. Dallas Fuel versus Houston Outlaws. This one will be in Dallas. Last one was in San Antonio, which is between Houston and Dallas, so it really wasn't in Houston, even though Houston were the ones that hosted it. This one will be in Dallas, so we're going to get an actual Battle for Texas in Dallas once again. Both teams on the same stage, whatever. It's going to be cool to see. So this is my second big pick game of the weekend. Could be a very good match. Depending on what we see from the Outlaws, of course, it was a huge upset when they played the first time this season. Fuel looked very good as well, but I think they are not, in my opinion, the same like world beaters that we've seen from them in the past, but they still look like they're one of the best teams in the league. Outlaws look okay. They look decent, but Fuel look really, really solid right now. So I think the Fuel should take this one. I think it will be a decently good showing from them against an Outlaws team that I think struggled at times this tournament cycle. Obviously, losing to Boston was pretty bad, but the win against the Shock was a really good win that really did kind of put them in a very good trajectory. They didn't play last week, which I think does work in their favor a bit because they get that time off to prepare for this match against the Fuel. We'll see what they bring out, but I think the Fuel right now are just a better team. I'm going to take them in this one 3-1. Moving on to Sunday, Shanghai Dragons versus Chengdu Hunters. I think Chengdu looks better than the Dragons do right now, so I think the Hunters should take this one. A lot of this depends really on what we see out of the Dragons. If they run Who Are You and Li Jigon, this one definitely could be closer, but right now I think Chengdu is the better team in this meta, and I think they're going to take it 3-1. And the final APAC match of the week and final APAC match of the season is the Philadelphia Fusion versus the Seoul Dynasty. This one will also be in person with an audience in Korea, which is very, very cool. We haven't seen a Korean match played in front of fans in a very long time. So this one's going to be really cool. I'm excited to see that. Right now, I think the Dynasty are the better team. I think they should win this one. I imagine there's more Dynasty fans in Korea as well right now, even though the Fusion, of course, have a very long history of having great Korean players. This is their first season being a fully Korean roster. Definitely some popular players on that team, but I think the Seoul Dynasty do have a very, very, very big fan base, and I would imagine they'll have quite a few players or fans in attendance for this one. I think you have to favor the Dynasty in this one. They look better right now. I think they're the better of the two teams. And it's a great match to close out the tournament with, or the season with, for this region, because there are two teams in the region that are basically the two teams representing Korea right now, even though Philadelphia is, of course, not in Philadelphia. They're the team that's playing in Korea. So it'll be cool to see what happens here. But I think the Dynasty take this one by a score of 3-1. Fusion look okay. I think they'll be able to take a map, but I just don't think they are going to be able to win this one. Though I also thought that going into the Midseason Madness, and the Fusion won that game, so who knows. Final match day of the week, Sunday in the West. Ooh, boy. Vancouver Titans, Paris Eternal, rematch from their August 14th. I think it was August 14th, right? Yeah, that sounds about right. August 14th, when they played the last time. Titans won that one. I think they'll win again. I don't think they're trying to look very good. So to me, the Titans are the team to be favored in this series. They beat the Toronto Defiant. That's enough for me to think that they should be able to win this one. They're the better team right now, so give me the Titans in this one 3-0. Next, Dallas Fuel take on the Atlanta Reign. I like the Reign. Not enough for me to think they're going to beat the Fuel. The Fuel, to me, are the better team. They are the best team right now, I think, in the West. I think they should take this one somewhat convincingly by a score of 3-1. And the final match of the week is the Boston Uprising against the LA Gladiators. Uprising look pretty good, but I don't think they look good enough in this meta to beat a Gladiators team that I think look very, very good. Now, Punk is the big difference maker here, and like I said, if we don't see off-tank play out of the Gladiators, I'm concerned, but I think they are better at the other roles pretty significantly, that I think they should be able to have the other pieces around the tank line kind of take care of things. And I think they will take this one by a score of 3-1. So there you go. Those are my picks for the week, final week of APAC. I'm going to miss you, APAC. One of the APAC teams is going to be gone. Sayonara. We're going to miss you. But that is it for this week. Let me know your thoughts on my picks in the comments down below. If you agree, disagree, whatever it is. Love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing, as your support does mean a lot and help the channel out quite a bit. But that's going to be all from me for today. Thank you all so much once again. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.